There's no place like Seattle. The Emerald City is home to incredible landmarks like the Space Needle, Pike Place Market, as well as some of the best coffee in the world and some of the best cider. There's always something new to explore. Seattle is truly one of a kind experience that everyone should experience.
We traveled to the Emerald City June 22nd to 24th, 2018 to attend Ace Comic Con that featured guests, and anyone who attended Comic Cons would be salivating to meet stars such as Tom Holland, Tom Hiddleston, and many more.
All right, so yeah, what do you remember about like preparing for the con and everything before or the trip itself?
I remember being pretty hyped up because I went to the Ace a few months prior in Phoenix, Arizona, and this was our first big comic experience in the U.S.
Yeah, it was
And
the first time traveling together, first of many, and yeah, the initial lineup was pretty amazing.
yeah, the initial lineup was what was it? Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Tom
Hiddleston,
Hiddleston, and who else was there?
Kevin Smith was there, Tom Anthony Mackie was there,
Right.
Hallie Atwell.
Yeah, and what was it? A couple weeks before they Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans canceled due to filming or something like that, and then they replaced them with Tom Holland.
Yeah, which was definitely for you because you met Tom Holland was a big bummer. Two big, huge cancellations, but kind of made do. We also got Bucky Sebastian Stan there as another replacement, so that was okay. Do you remember when I like texted you being like, "Oh, Chris Hemsworth is back,"
Oh man, I was flying back from work, or just before I got on the plane. I remember getting that text, and I was so pumped.
and then you went on and there was nothing there.
And I was like checking, and I was like, I can't see it. What the heck? And I kept looking, and then you trolled me. It was the ultimate troll.
Yes, for
Those
sure.
never been so convinced in my life.
Yeah. So, what do you remember about the flight there? I think, from what I recall, I arrived in Seattle like a good solid hour, maybe 2 hours before you because your flight got delayed or whatever.
Yeah, I remember my flight got delayed, and it was because the incoming plane was late from Seattle. But I remember the flight was great. It was it's pretty short. I think it was only like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was definitely a short flight from where we live. Absolutely. I do remember just there's nothing worse than when you arrive in an airport, you just want to get out and get exploring. And
Oh yeah.
here I am just twiddling my thumbs waiting for you for like 2 hours, a long time to spend at an airport when you're just arrived, you know?
Yeah, it was not fun being delayed like that, and always because we flew out of different airports,
Yeah.
having to wait.
Yeah. So then after that, we went, checked into our hotel. It was pretty late at this time. It was like a good, like, it was almost near close. I remember that when it was like the lights, there was no sun in the sky. It was nighttime for sure. And then we went over to get some IHOP, and then we went to that little bar. What do you remember about that little bar?
Oh,
And
the dive bar, that was such a great little experience we have. Felt
yeah,
like going to like a little local pub. It was a lot
yeah,
of
the
fun.
hotel ended up being kind of like not downtown or whatever. It was an interesting experience for sure. The bar itself had like board games that was their gimmick or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I think we stayed till it pretty much closed down the bar, dude.
Yeah, and then we Ubered it back. We were pretty nice and feeling good, and then we crashed at like midnight, and then we woke up at 5 for some reason to head to downtown core. And what do you remember about the waking up and the first initial arriving downtown in Seattle on the following day?
I remember being pretty excited getting on that bus to head downtown. I remember we walked kind of through a park and went to that breakfast place, that kind of fancy breakfast place.
Right, right. I vaguely remember that now. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I remember the weather. It was like just rained, or it was just like that morning dew or whatever. It was just like a little chilly out for hoodie. We needed hoodies and everything.
Yeah, I remember it being not the nicest day that day,
Yeah,
and always a fun bus experiences can always be fun.
yeah,
First thing, I think it was like the first, like right when the buses started too.
yeah. We like over, I guess because we didn't know we had a lot to do that Friday, and we kind of overcompensated. So we woke up stupid early, and then like we got to the like area where we wanted to go to, both the Space Needle and the Pop Culture Museum, with that's like in the same like area. And we got there at like nine, like I don't know, it was like 8 a.m. and they didn't open till like an hour later, so we just had to wait. And then we eventually got into the Space Needle, and yeah, the Space Needle was an amazing experience. What do you recall about that?
Yeah, the Space Needle was pretty fun, even if it was under construction and they had like certain sections closed off. It was
Yeah,
uh it was a pretty wild experience actually.
yeah, I do remember. Just because nobody was there, we had to like we got to take our time, and it was just the unlike other large buildings we've been to. This one where like you're allowed to go out onto like their deck or whatever, so you're like outside or whatever.
That was nice. And they
Yeah,
took the goofy photo of us.
yeah, with the like Seattle back screen and stuff, and then they after that we had the like time to kill. I think we had another like 45 minutes to the pop culture museum. So then we bought some merch at the store there for like souvenirs and everything. Then we got kind of a shocking experience. The reason why we wanted to go to this museum is because they had that Marvel exhibit, but it turns out there was like a massive field trip going on. Like, I mean, not just
Yeah.
one class, but like a district of schools, plural. Like, it was intense. There must have been like 500 kids there.
Yeah, I remember we were like, we got to speed run this, man. It was a fast but memorable pop museum, I'd say.
Yeah, I remember the Marvel exhibit being pretty cool, and yeah, we I don't know, it's one of those things that I think any exhibit in general, it's like you're looking at just like a bunch of props, right? Different Iron Man
Yeah.
suits and like comics, various statues, taking a bunch of pictures, and I remember it all pretty vividly, and then it was a lot of fun and everything. But yeah, you don't need to spend like you can definitely spend an hour there, but it really depends on how long you want to spend. Like how long can you take a look at a Iron Man suit for? You know.
Yeah, what are you gonna really read about that you don't know about the Iron
Hmm.
Man suit?
Yeah, exactly. After that, we checked out some of the other exhibits. There was like that Kurt Cobain exhibit, I remember, the
Yeah,
sci-fi exhibit,
yeah,
and
that was a really good museum. They had it really well done.
yeah. And then after that, we took the like an Uber out, and then we went over to like Papa John's or whatever. Then afterwards, we wanted to hunt for our coffee before we started the lineup for the actual con itself, and it took us forever to find a coffee. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, we were like walking up and down areas, couldn't find anything.
Yeah, and then we finally just found a place which like ended up becoming our home away from home. Basically, what was the name of the coffee shop again?
Zeitgeist coffee.
Yeah, it was like a couple of blocks away from the actual con itself. So it was basically you get your coffee and you walk for 5-10 minutes, and it's really good. I really enjoyed the coffee, and it was a very memorable experience. Also, with that, I think there was also a Starbucks on the end of the block, but we decided to go with the Zeitgeist coffee.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, which was a much better idea, getting that true Seattle coffee experience instead of
Yeah,
just going to a generic Starbucks.
absolutely. So then afterwards, we just kind of went over to the venues. Like the venue was located in the Awamu Theater, and then this, or also called the CenturyLink Field Event Center. And then it's right by the like where the Seahawks play and everything. So it was a pretty cool experience. We were just kind of walking around. I remember one of the vendors, must have been one of the vendors. He's like, "Yeah, you know, you're going to be waiting a while or something like that." Do you remember that?
Yeah. And we're like, yeah, obviously. Doesn't start for a few hours. Thanks for the obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. It was there wasn't like no kidding. Like
There's
that
always that one person who like thinks they like know more than us. Like even at at wrestling events, they're like, "Why are you here so early? It doesn't start for a few hours." It's like, do you even understand?
yeah, yeah, it's I think a lot of it's like just us being us. We like being early birds and stuff, and we definitely overcompensate sometimes, like showing like taking a 5 a.m. bus to get to the Space Needle that doesn't open till 8, and all we needed to do was get breakfast. But hey, man, I'd rather be early than late, right? And
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot better of experience. So yeah, we waited in line and we waited and we waited, talked to some of the people who were also in the lines, and boom, the con opened. So what do you remember about the initial con opening, as well as like just that first day in general?
Well, as always, Ace has those metal detectors outside and inside, so it was always,
Kind
even
of
kind of
rough.
being near the first in lines, it still takes forever to go through all that stuff, and it's pretty great walking in that theater. And even though it's kind of empty, they didn't. It's not so much about vendors. It's just, but being in the environment, knowing who we're gonna meet,
Yeah,
it's
for
pretty.
sure. That first night, especially too, we kind of like hit a home run right out the gate or whatever. So yeah, I just remember meeting like I don't even remember who we met first necessarily, but I know there was a few wrestlers there who didn't even make their little outside banner, and there was three wrestlers in specific. One was Shinsuke Nakamura, and that was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, that was
Like
a great one.
yeah, and then what was the one announcer that during the Attitude Era?
Lillian Garcia.
Lillian Garcia, and we just had to like it was quick with her. Then we had a photo with Becky, and this was right before Becky became the man. Like she was just like us smiling, like she turned heel at this was in June, so then she turned heel, quote unquote heel, in at SummerSlam. And then within the next 6 months, she became the man. The time like January rolled around, she won the Rumble, right?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy meeting her kind of before the huge transformation and blow up. She was
Yeah,
always big, but she never got on that. She just couldn't get to that level, that gimmick. I felt like she was missing that gimmick, and yeah, and then we met her, and then boom, one of the biggest gimmicks ever.
yeah, and then I believe our last photo off that day was the biggest one. But before that, due to the fact that you had to go through a metal detector every single time you had a photo, so you basically got your photo, then you left the metal detector area, and then if you had another photo, you had to re-go through a metal detector, and you had to take out all your like metals and all that stuff. And they only had one metal detector, so if they had like six or seven like 100 people trying to go get a photo op, then that every single one of them had to go through the metal detector again. And you also bought an autograph for Becky and wanted to get her autograph, and I had that skip of the line thing.
Yeah,
And
uh,
so I took your poster, went and got it signed while you were waiting in line. And I remember you were stressing because you were approaching the front of the metal detector line.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you were just like, abandon ship, abandon ship. Who cares about the autograph? But I was like, no, chill out. We'll get it. We'll get it. Got you the autograph, and then it hustled back. And then we got the Tom Hiddleston photo op. What do you remember about meeting Tom Hiddleston, who's Loki?
Oh yeah, Tom Wilson was great. I'm pretty sure we did that the Friday we met Tom just because we didn't want to try and deal with him on the Saturday.
Yeah, it was definitely the Friday. And I think he was added after to the Friday. So he was originally Saturday, Sunday, but then he added the Friday, and you had to transfer your ticket, if my memory recalls correctly.
And I remember wanting to do it Friday because it just made more sense to get
The
probably
biggest
one of the
one.
biggest. Yeah, because I remember in Ace and Phoenix, I did that for Chris Evans. I switched to the Saturday instead of the Sunday, and then he canceled Sunday. So it was like one of those things was like it's better to get the main guest out of the way in case something happens.
Right, right. And yeah, I do. I don't really recall too much about meeting Tom Hiddleston, but it was your standard photo op, and he was like really nice. I remember after the con was officially closed, he stuck around to meet the actual like to finish his autographs.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and that was
yes.
pretty cool. So then, yeah, we just it was Saturday, which was your typical big day of the con. So, what do you remember about like we arrived stupid early, like normal? I think we woke up at 5, 6, and what do you remember about the early mornings of the con on Saturday?
I remember there was some people in line while we were waiting. Like I know there's this one couple and they had so many things they were getting autographed. And I remember we were like tallying up the cost and it was like thousands of US dollars. It was just crazy what some people spend to get autograph, pops, and they got like four pops and two posters, and they got like all this other stuff, and it's just like, dang, we thought we spent a lot of money, but some people spend way more.
Yeah, some people definitely go all out. And I remember the first photo up on this Saturday was for me, it was a solo photo where I met Tom Holland, Spider-Man himself, and it was a great experience. I can't remember the exact wording of anything that was had there also, but I remember having a really great experience with him, and he was just really friendly, and it's definitely like, meeting Tom Holland, meeting the main Spider-Man was pretty massive deal, right? And this is, I believe, yeah, this was after Infinity War, before Endgame, right? So Spider-Man was already established, right?
Yeah, and I remember doing the group photo with the four of them, Anthony, the two Toms, and Sebastian.
Right. You got like the big like Avengers photo or
Yeah,
whatever. How was
yeah.
that? I totally forgot about that.
It was pretty great. I just remember instead of like taking a refund, I was like, well, I've already kind of like met a couple of them. I was like, I'll just do a big photo op because sometimes it's nice to get like a group photo and then having single photo ops.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it was pretty cool though. Everyone still took their time and like shook my hand and everything. So they weren't being rushed. But I remember it just being chaos because you had the Tom photo, and then right after I had my like group photo, and they would
After,
not they would not like let us like. I remember trying to like go with you, and they're like, well, you're gonna have to go back to the metal detector. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
yeah. And then after, if I recall, you had a photo up with Anthony Mackie. Did you have a solo photo up with Mackie? I know I already met Mackie, so I didn't bother.
I had a solo photo with Anthony in Phoenix.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you didn't need to
Yeah.
meet Mackie. So then we had three more photo ops to get that day, and I believe, if memory serves me correctly, the Sebastian Stan, so Bucky, we met him together, and that was a great photo op. Anything memorable to say?
No, I just always enjoyed meeting Sebastian Stan. The Winter Soldier was such a great character in how they did him justice in the movies.
Yeah, and
It's
then
always nice.
yeah, and then I can, from what I can recall, we had Grant Gustin photo also on the Saturday, but then he canceled. Like, he didn't cancel, but his photo was delayed, or maybe was this on the Sunday?
I think it was on this. I remember we had the one Riverdale girl on the Sunday.
Yeah, the Riverdale girl, the Veronica. And
Yes.
so after that, we met the Riverdale girl on the Sunday, and we had to like come back for Grant Gustin. But then we met Elizabeth Olsen, and then there
Oh,
was,
right.
and then she had that big mom smile, and then we also had some Vision to meet.
Right. Paul Bentley.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember Elizabeth Olsen being my favorite experience of the con. She was
yeah,
great.
she was great, and she had like a huge mom smile. It's one of my favorite photos that we've ever taken for sure. It was
Oh yeah.
awesome. Yeah, and especially now where she's like very predominant in the MCU, it's definitely pays off. And then yeah, so after that we did the three, which was them three, and then I think that was ending it, and then we just had the next day. Went back to the hotel on the Saturday night, and I remember somebody knocking at our hotel door, and it was
Yes.
like
Yes.
an adult worker being like, "Hey, I'm here," and it was like,
And
awkward.
and who were they asking for? David or something like that? So
Yeah,
funny.
it was so awkward. I was kind of scared or whatever. And then afterwards was the Sunday, and the Sunday was really hectic because Grant Gustin. This was like the Flash, right? And he's only did like one or two cons before then, right?
And
And
he also canceled a lot of cons. I guess he has bad anxiety or something. He said just with
mhm.
the crowds of people. So we were pretty lucky we got a photo with him because I don't think he did many after that.
Yeah, I know he did one fan expo in Vancouver or whatever. So then like yeah, he was originally at two. So then we kind of went, attended some panels, if I recall, and then we just kind of got that Veronica photo, and then we went, got the Grant Gustin photo. I believe then we also got Hallie Atwell, which you ended up joining me with, even though you already met her.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Yes. And then that was basically the trip. And then, of course, though, we had to rush back to the to our hotel to check out and then get to the airport. And it was like crazy, like just a pure crazy experience.
Yeah, with the parade and everything. I think it was Pride weekend, and it was the buses were just jam packed, and we had to like push ourselves on the bus.
That's one story we forgot to mention was on the Saturday night that we wanted to go to that bar or whatever, and it was ended up being on the other side of downtown. It's called like the cider bar, and I'm a big cider drinker, and it was just like a 30-minute uphill walk the entire time, and it was a pretty steep incline too.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the incline that we had to walk, but it was a very enjoyable walk.
Oh man, I was exhausted. I was like, "Oh God, kill me!" By the time we got there, and then I remember right when we got there, and I like smashed like a table with drinks everywhere and stuff, and it
Yeah.
was super embarrassing. And then yeah, getting back was like a headache because the roads were closed because of Pride weekend, because so they can do their parades and everything. It was just a nightmare.
Yeah, we had to like go to a gas station to call for an Uber or something like that. And then they're
Yeah,
like, you can't stand here. Can't
yes,
stand.
can't stand in the parking lot of the gas station. Yeah,
Yeah.
waiting. So then we had to just like kind of wait, and it was super awkward. So then, yeah, fast forward now where we had to rush back to take the bus, but we didn't quite know the bus service, obviously. So we were on the wrong side of it, and then we had to rush over to the other side, and then the bus was packed.
And late.
After that, we just ended up getting to the going back to the airport, and again, us overthinking the situation. We arrived at the airport like hours and hours beforehand. Or if you remember, it was like something like 5 hours before our first flight, and it was your first flight. It was maybe only like a 4 hour wait for you, but then it was like a 7 hour wait for me at that airport. And we just kind of chilled at the airport the entire time. But I gotta say, Seattle's airport is really nice. I really enjoyed that long wait at the airport just to decompress and take it all in, right?
Yeah, Seattle had a pretty nice airport to just chill in.
Yeah, so it was definitely a great experience. So now I don't know how you want to rate this, if you're rating it just on the con, if you're rating on the trip. It's hard to differentiate the two, right? The trip and the con. But the rating, so like our last con, the Calgary 2018, we both gave S tiers. Where would you rank this?
I'm gonna rank it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna rank it just on the con itself because that's what we've been doing. And one other thing I wasn't Ace didn't quite figure out yet was they were putting all the panels during photo ops. So like we didn't really get to watch many of the photo ops, and we had like a screen we could watch them on, but they didn't like have the volume turned up. So you were just kind of like lip reading.
Yeah, the panels were definitely a missed opportunity because we never really got to experience them live. But that is often the case for cons, and I really enjoy the fact that Ace put them up on Facebook, not even just Facebook Live, but just it was on Facebook Live, but then they uploaded the video for later viewing. So I just remember watching it on the way back, waiting at the airport, and there was that crazy Tom Holland panel with Bucky and Anthony Mackie. They were ribbing him, and the fans were just like, "How dare you rib Tom Holland?" It's almost like famous. It got like world round recognition. You can tell Tom Holland was just, or not Tom Holland, Anthony Mackie was just like, ugh, screw this.
I'm gonna rank it. I'm gonna give it a solid A. I'm gonna give it an A rank.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an A as well. Then I think that's good. Like it's hard to when you just point out the con, right? As for the trip was amazing. If we included the trip, I would give it an S. But
Oh yeah,
differentiating just the con itself and just that con, I would definitely give it a just an A. And that's a solid con. So yeah, anything in
yes.
closing?
I think Ace continued to improve with the con experience, especially where they started with in what was it in LA, and just like hearing horror stories, and yeah, it really turned around. It was the third con they did, and overall, the Seattle trip was probably one of the best trips we ever had from Ace's side. It was just a really memorable experience.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a great, memorable experience there, and it was definitely an awesome trip. So yeah, that's basically the Ace experience, and are definitely we have several other Aces to go next. So this was in June, I believe. Our next actual experience is Ace Phoenix, if I serve correctly, because you didn't go to the Edmonton Expo that year. So yeah, tune in next time to hear our experience about Ace Phoenix